Really?
Too late.
What do you want me to say, man? Hey, man, how y'all? Welcome to the Knives Templars.
I don't
28th,
know.
right?
I don't know.
28th.
I
The
don't know. Give it
28th episode.
I don't know. Give it your best shot.
Okay. Ready?
Ready?
Good evening, y'all. Welcome to the Knives Templars. Oh, yeah.
3, 2, 1, 0.
You're listening to the Knives Templars.
Get ready, y'all. We about to Bobby Boucher you. Bam!
I got a piece off of the wagon that Sam Houston used to take JFK to the moon.
Pinto sauce. I like that. Pinto sauce.
Pinto sauce.
You're tuned in to the Knives Templars podcast, featuring Otisir Special Sauce Pinto.
I was a mean kid.
Long time listener, first time caller.
Eric T.R.E. Rivers.
Holy crap, I built something.
Don the Train Watson.
I can pay off all my credit cards and beef jerky credit line at Buc-ee's.
Joey the Riot Terrier.
Cochon de lait will make you smack your lips and anyone getting too close to your plate.
Mark the Sallow.
You drinking my soupy?
And Chip Shegman Carlisle. And now broadcasting alive, it's the Knives Templars. Coming to you live from Porkhouse Studios located in Hartselle, Alabama and other U.S. locations. This is the Knives Templars podcast. We are the coolest knife-making podcast on the planet, and we are downloaded around this big blue marble in over 24 countries. We are on air, on demand, and heard worldwide in all of your favorite apps and at knivestemplars.com. Hey guys, it's Chip Carlisle. Welcome to episode 28 of season 100 of the Knives Templars. You know, you can break up the seasons however you like. So I figure like every 15 minutes of an episode, we just create another season.
There you go.
Yeah, I like it.
Episode 28, season 3. Welcome. I'm Chip Carlisle, and I'm joined with my friend Don the Train Watson, Mark
Hello.
VMAX Vasillo, and Dan. Well, he's not really a host, but I guess we have to vote tonight because we've got some people off tonight. So let's just go ahead and do the Pops Knife Supply vote. Mark, is our buddy Dan? Is he a Knives Templar host?
You know, I can see it in his eyes. I think he's going to be good.
Yeah.
All right. What about you, Don?
Oh, yeah. Let's get
All right. Chip says yes. So we're joined by Knife Perspectives, Dan Eastland.
That's right.
And coming in here at the last minute with Dirty Dog Towing and car repair, Joey the Riot. Joey.
Hey, Chip, what's going on, buddy?
I'll get started there. How are you? All the cars and everything all fixed?
Oh, yeah. My wife had some car issues with her battery, so got that squared away.
Well, that's good. That's good. You get a tow bot over there and hook it up to the front to take it home, or?
No, I actually was able to jump it and get it to the house somehow. And don't ask me what's going on with it, but you know, cars these days with these computers. Yeah. I used to have an '89 Chevy. It was so easy to work on.
Yeah, I was just telling these guys I had a '76 Trans Am, and my dad used to tell me go put the car back together in the driveway because he was tired of it being spread out everywhere. But there was a day when we can work on cars. But hopefully
I'm
it's something
old school. My everyday driver is an '88 Toyota 4Runner.
There you go. There you go. I drive a 2005 Chevy Silverado, so it's a baby compared to yours, but I believe if it runs good. Well, hopefully it's something as easy as a battery or maybe a cable that's got a little corrosion on it, or doesn't get much worse than that.
Yeah, check the cables; they look clean. There's still grease on them.
Yeah.
So and it didn't lose the clock. So I don't know what happened. The ABS warning light shined on. She was flashing. It almost as if it got into some kind of lock mode. I don't know. It just wouldn't let her do anything.
What's she driving?
It's a 2019 Toyota Highlander.
Oh, good car. Yeah. Well, I would say there's that show on AM radio called Car Guys or Car Talk,
Mm-hmm.
and they have a better sense of humor than us. So if we can't figure it out, I gave you everything I got, brother.
Yeah,
So,
one of the brothers died though, man.
did they?
It's just one of them now.
Oh,
Yeah, clink it and clack it.
I bet the jokes fall flat. Then there's no. Yeah,
It's a real one-sided conversation.
I bet so. I bet so. So, Joey, welcome to the show. Don, how you been doing the past couple weeks?
I've been doing good, Chip, and I've just been cleaning up, trying to get the pool cleaned up. All that pollen fell, and it's just been a mess. But making some knives, man. Enjoying life.
I've seen that
down here in Florida.
Don's that your grandkids running around in the background, or is that Joey's kids getting all excited about the day?
I don't know, man.
I don't know. It ain't mine, brother. They're all at home. They're all at home.
I think Joey fed the kids sugar for dinner. My grandkids they all had colds, so I'm not hearing them running around downstairs tonight. They're over at their house. Mark, I don't want to ask you how you're doing because I have something here that arrived in my mailbox today.
Oh yeah,
and I love it when us Templars come together. What is that?
That's it's a piece of zebra wood that that I had there. So, I figured I'd had to throw it in with the other item in the shipment.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to make sure I could identify it because I wasn't going to use it unless I could identify it. And I'm looking for it for any microfractures right now. But,
that's right.
It looks good. I think I'm going to use it. It's beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And, oh, come on. That was worth more than a laugh that I got there.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. I was on mute. You couldn't hear me laughing.
And then I've got something very special. And I'll hold this up. You guys can't see it. So, Mark, I'm going to explain to people what you sent me. Mark was out shopping, and it says, freshness you can taste. Yum. Get some. Free sticker inside. Oh, boy. The original bag of poo. Here we go. This show is just, it ought to be like Knives, Templars, and poo discussion. Guaranteed, genuine and trusted, authentic, premium quality Sasquatch crap poo.
Oh, yeah.
And well, let's just see how.
I couldn't pass it up.
I'm thinking, do I run around the forest and hang this in the trees so all the people out there looking for Bigfoot think that they've got some?
You know, I've had one question about the Bigfoot people.
Yeah. I'm one.
Now, some of them play primate mating calls to try and attract the Bigfoot. I want to know what exactly they think is going to happen when a Bigfoot that's responding to mating calls comes running into their camp.
It's a bad show there.
I'm going to put a pinch of this Sasquatch poo between my cheek and my gum, my real cheek. The cheek's up here. Hey. It has a hairy consistency when you first put it in your mouth.
Mm-hmm. You don't say.
Yep. And it kind of takes me back to, let's just say, it melts in your mouth.
Okay.
All right.
And it's rolling around in my palate right now. And the exact taste, I mean, this is dead on, is urinal cake.
Okay.
See, I expected something nuttier.
Yeah, I was thinking like a earthy tone.
Let me get one of the hard pieces out here. Definitely acorn or squirrel nut one.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Mark, thank you so much. And for you guys that have never had any Sasquatch poo, you need to go to www.originalbagofpoo.com and get you a bag of Sasquatch poo. I'm going to enjoy this, and I'm not going to eat it all at once, but I will be putting the fine sticker that comes on it on the back of my truck.
Man.
So
there you go.
People will know that they can stop me and ask about the taste of Sasquatch poo.
I really expected for it to be more of a mouthful.
You know, there is a large pile in that bag.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I would call it a really big sausage. you know. But it's kind of squished down. You can tell it was a big sausage when they put it in there. But like I said, the hairiness of it kind of catches you. But if you've ever been into a gas station, one that's not very clean, and you get that urinal cake smell when you walk in, that's it.
That orange kind of minty with a chemical forward kind of
that's
rolls.
What this tastes. That's
more on the
exactly
back of your palate.
Yes. Who needs a brew review tonight with that?
That's right.
Mark.
Yeah,
Mark.
right.
You're my new best friend. I love my Sasquatch stuff. Now, just so you know, Dan, I did see the hairy man in 1978. Haven't seen him then, and I can't tell you 100% for sure because I didn't lay my hands on him. But I did see the hairy man in 1978, and that's a discussion for another time if you ever want to have it. But it was a good one. Have I ever told you guys that whole story?
Nope, never heard it.
You know, there's
I heard you
folks down
78
here that
Trans
talk
Am.
about the skunk ape.
76 Trans Am. So do you want to hear the story real quick?
Yeah.
I mean, heck, it's our
go ahead,
podcast.
Hey.
So we were, me, my brother, my sister, and some friends, we were at the cross country campground in Denver, North Carolina. I grew up in Charlotte. Dan, I know you're down from the Greenville area. Is that correct?
I am. I'm from, I grew up in North Georgia, but I live in Greenville now.
Right. So I grew up in Charlotte, Pineville. So I grew up in North Carolina, and so 1978, I would have been 14 years old. And we had a trailer or a camper that my parents kept back in the back of this campground, and very wooded area, lake in the back, some cow pastures and stuff surrounded it, lake on one side and so on. And we would walk up to the front of this campground, which was probably about a mile and a quarter, mile and a half, and through a section of it was campground, and a lot of it was through a wooded area, very wooded area, so wooded that if the stars weren't out and you were walking through at night, I can remember as a kid, it was as dark as black could be. You couldn't see in front of you, or you couldn't see the ground. And we had gone up to the front of the campground and played some carpet golf, and we went. They had a place up there where bluegrass bands would play, because back then in North Carolina, you just got bluegrass Sunday nights and places like that, or church bands had come through, and they had a little game room in there. So we had finished playing our Galaga and Pac-Man and all that, and probably listening. I think REO Speedwagon and who else? Maybe some Journey was on the jukebox in that place, and probably other things, Kiss and so on. But I think I remember those. But we were walking back one night, and we'd come down the hill, and it was right before a bridge, and there was a lake there, and there was an earthen dam. And as we were walking, my sister stopped, and she looked over, or she was looking over, and we all stopped and looked over, and there was this bear with its down drinking out of the water. And I don't know of any bears in that area. It was a big, hairy animal. But, your first thought would be, well, that's bigger than a dog. It must be a bear. I don't know if we actually thought bear, but I think that's what most people would say. Well, what if it was a bear? But this thing lifted up and on all fours, still could have been a bear. And as it kind of looked over, turning its body, it stood up. So you guys can see it kind of turning its body. It looked over, and it stood up on all fours. And it sat there and stared at us for a second, and I could not make out any facial features, and I couldn't make out strands of hair. It was just a big, hairy animal, probably not much more than 6.5 feet tall, height of a tall man. And it went up one side of this earthen dam, crossed the road, and went down the other side for another 50 yards. That, how earth dam in a big lake will drop off real deep, and went off into the woods. And we all sat there kind of mesmerized by the whole thing. I'm sure we were all kind of terrified, but nobody really got too worked up about it. Well, we started walking back towards our part of the campground. And as we're walking through the woods, we can hear something traipsing through the woods just out of sight. And it was dark as could be. There was a light post down where a bridge was that crossed. And as we got across that bridge, it all stopped, and we went back to the campground. I don't remember ever really talking about it after that. We didn't run back and tell our parents. But about 10 years ago, we were at my sister's house for Christmas. Family and everybody was there. And my brother brought it up. And my sister and I like, oh yeah, we remember that. And everybody was giving us the BS sign and so on. And I said, stop, pull us to different rooms. Let's tell you a story. And we all came back, and a family member told him the story that we told, probably not as long as this was in that much detail, but we all told the same story. So either we were under Ario Speedwagon and chili cheese fries hallucinations, or we saw something we can't explain. So did I see the big hairy man? Enough to make me really cool and interested in him, and I would love for him to exist, but I've spent so much time in the North Georgia mountains on the Appalachian Trail, camping out in the woods in Alabama and up through the UP of Michigan, and I've never seen anything twice. So I don't know. Maybe it was a. Go ahead.
I want it to be true.
Yeah.
I can acknowledge that mathematically it could be true.
Yeah.
I mean, the coelacanth was extinct until people started catching them again.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm a hopeful skeptic. Like I really want it to exist, but I haven't seen that grain of truth that I can anchor on yet.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, the only time I can say I've got a second event. My buddy Cody and I were out in the Bankhead National Forest back in 2017, spending the night. We had walked 17 miles in, so we were farther in than most hikers, day hikers and stuff, don't go more than 3 or 4 miles in if they go that far. And we were on a little creek, and we were sitting there, and all of a sudden, a tree that was about 24 inches in diameter up on a hill that was a giant tall tree just it just cracked and started rolling down the hill. No wind or anything. And we just figured, of course, we said if a tree falls in the woods and nobody's there, does it make a sound? Well, we were there, so we heard the sound. But it was just the weirdest thing that tree just came down, and the tree was a dead tree, so it could have just been its time. But that night, I was sleeping in a hammock next to the creek, and I heard something walking up and down that creek all night. And I woke up the next morning, and I saw that there were a fish there called a red horse, kind of a little bit like a carp or something, but it's not a carp. And they were moving up and down that river, so I figured maybe they were splashing at night, doing some spawning or something, because it was about that time of year. But your mind can play tricks on you. So did I really see it? I'm like you. I would like for it to be true, but I think sometimes just the fantasy of it all is just fun. I've always enjoyed that kind of stuff anyway.
I want to live in a world where Bigfoot is a thing.
Yeah, and he's nice. Hey, how you doing? Have you tried my poo?
Just a big, friendly, slightly misunderstood guy. Maybe he, like when nobody's around, he'll put on the wire rim glasses so he doesn't seem so intimidating. Really just wants to have a nice conversation. But
Joey the Riot says, I don't want any Rougarou hanging around my house.
No.
Shoot him, man. Shoot him.
Do not want no Rougarou hanging around my house.
Well, no, that's a whole nother.
The Rougarou?
Yeah.
Whole nother creature.
Yeah. Whole nother creature.
Of course, you've got Dog Man and Lizard Man running around South Carolina, Dan. Don, you've got Skunk Ape?
Skunk
Ape is, yeah.
Yeah. Alabama, we've got White Thing and Bigfoot. White Thing's just a albino Bigfoot, though. Mark, you've got drunken old sailors running around down there.
Hey, that's right. That's right.
So, Mark, what have you been up to besides hanging out with drunken old sailors?
That's right. That's right. Hey, this week, I got a new roof on my house, so that was the big event for me this week. So, insurance finally paid out, and one day there was like 30 people on the roof, and next day it's done. So that was a good deal for me.
Did you have some storm damage?
Last year, and it's taken about 9 months to get the insurance claim done.
Oh, wow.
So
they like to play the waited out game, don't they?
Oh yeah. So,
I've got a storm damage roof, and I love it because I've got like $15,000 in savings on a storm damage roof. So it is nice when insurance does pay for it, though, because roofs aren't cheap.
Yeah. And then I've been besides for work, I've been trying to get. I'll tell you, some of these knives are taking longer than they should, because I get like an hour a night to work on some of these things. But I did get the chance this week to use those sanding stones and do a little video on that, and I really enjoy those things. So that was pretty fun, and hopefully going to finish this thing up this weekend.
Yeah. So if you're using the sanding stones, the sticks, and for people that don't know what they are, I encourage you to go out to um, Knives Templar's Facebook page, and probably you can put it on the Rivers Experience as well if you're not there, and people could see the video of you doing that. I first saw Trolsky doing that on a video a year or two ago, and bought some of those as well. And I use them occasionally, but it isn't the coolest thing because it's like sandpaper's good for about 9 swipes back and forth before you go to the next piece. And with these, you just keep going. Yeah, Joey.
Are they those sticks? Are they really thin?
So there was 2 different types. I got these are probably about a 1/4 inch thick by maybe
5/8.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is, and
Yeah.
then there's a little wider version, which might be a little bit better if you have a little bit bigger knife.
The wider
Then-
ones are typically for the ones that they use for knife sharpeners.
Yep.
The ones you've got are polishing sticks, sanding sticks, polishing sticks, and I bought the ones on Amazon. So what I figured out real quick, if it says 400, it's probably about 200. So you get up to 1,000, you've probably got about and I've got mine go up to 1,200. You probably got a 6 or 700 or 6 or 800 grit, but they do a nice job, especially when you're trying to run the scratches out one way or the other. But I always go back to paper at the end. Did you find that, Mark? That you went back
I
to paper?
did. I'm gonna just kind of do some one direction swipes to finish it off.
Yeah.
And because I got up to 600 and it's pretty smooth. I think it's pretty consistent with my 600 grit, sandpaper. But I might probably go up to 800 and then maybe swipe down with some one way direction 600 sandpaper.
Didn't you find that they're really cool when you're going up into that plunge line?
It is. It gets real
man.
close. You have that little angle on, and then you can get right close up in that plunge line. It's nice.
Yeah, I was gonna actually speak about that. I made me a little jig out of some 3/16 steel, and on the backside I put leather. I glued leather to it and curled it up on the edge side, so they got the hard side, the flat side, if you want to use it, and then the curved side where the leather comes up, you can get into the plunge area on your plunge lines, and it's been working really good. I'm sure those stones do too, because if they're 1/4 inch thick, you can probably wrap some sandpaper on the end of them. How wide are they?
They're about the size of like a machinist's, the little chalk sticks you get.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they're about 5/8, something like 5/8 wide.
But the ones I've got are real brittle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was worried that if I put too much pressure on it, it was just going to snap. But
Well, that's what I was going to ask. That's why I opted to make this little piece of steel and just wrap sandpaper around it. You kind of fold the paper, the width of the stick, and this is probably about 3/4 of an inch wide that I made
feel
it.
like now is a good time for me to tell you about Sanding Buddies. That's
right.
Sanding Buddies from KH Daily Knives.
Go for it.
Yeah,
Go
that's
for
right.
it.
Cow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go for it for sure. That's one of the things is that with our podcast, if you go out to our website now, we're taking an approach that I don't want to hide people from finding the knife perspective or knife talk or art of craftsmanship, because we're all doing the same thing and we all do it a little bit different. And I'm sure we're not fighting for, 15,000 listeners and this, that, and the other. And the more that we do to spread that. So if you go to the better. So if you go to our website, you'll see links for we'll call them our partners, our partner sites and partner products. So you'll see the Knife Perspective, the Rivers Experience, other podcasts on there. You'll also see products and services that we team up with people on that we use. So, and I'm also putting makers out there. So any makers, I'm not putting you on my knife making website because I don't want to have to compete with your excellence. But I will say this, on Knives Templars, it's a free for all. So I'm telling everybody now, if you are interested in putting your logo and a link to your knife brand on the Knives Templars partners page, just go there and you could submit the request on that particular page. It says KT Nation, Knife Templar Nation, and we will put a link to your knife brand so people can click there and go where you want them to find what you do. But so Daly makes a lot of products. I know that his hammer is really cool, but tell us a little bit about his sanding sticks.
So he does a couple. They are the ones he's known for is he does radius sanding sticks. So like if you're doing a 48-inch radius, trying to sand that can get really tricky. So he makes little sanding sticks. They're about half an inch wide, 6 inches long, but they've got that 48-inch radius, so it fits perfectly in. He also makes some flat. I wound up with 4 or 5 of them because I've got one that's completely that's flat and it's got a hard backing to it, and then he includes different densities of little pieces of rubber that you can adhere to them.
Yes.
So I've got one that's a hard back when I'm trying to get something perfectly flat, and then you can use ones that have got the softer rubber backings once it's as flat as it's going to get, and you need to polish. You need something to kind of ride those contours. You can use the rubber backed. Or again, like I said, for the big radiuses,
right.
Especially in the kitchen knife industry, he does sanding sticks that match that radius, and it's a lifesaver. It gets those the change of direction scratches, makes it a lot easier because you're covering the whole radius in a single pass.
He's quite innovative in a lot of the things that he does, and a lot of times innovation is just improving on things that you've seen, and you find your way of doing it. And so whether you're the father of invention or you're the guy that made the mousetrap better, he is an extremely talented man.
It's like he was an engineer or something.
You would think. You would think. You would think. I will tell you. You guys ready for the brew review?
Yes, let's do it.
We're ready.
Oh yeah.
I don't have much tonight, guys. We kind of know what the menu is on each show, but I will tell you, I'm not gonna. It was pretty simple. This particular week, I went looking for a. The guy went out and found a fairly decent brew this night, and it's called an Old Style Ale, and it's actually from here in the area. I've been looking at some of the areas that we make, and it's called Brother Joseph's Belgian Style Double L, and it's from the Straight to L Brewing Company out in Huntsville, Alabama. And why Brother Joseph's Belgian is when I lived up in Michigan, we used to watch this mother. Tell me what her name is. She was on the Catholic network on TV. Mother Angelica. Yeah, her name was. Anyway, everything up in Michigan was Catholic for the most part, like Baptist down south. And Mother Angelica was always on TV, so we'd see Mother Angelica. And when I moved to Alabama, darn if she didn't. I thought Mother Angelica lived like at the Vatican or something. She lived in Coleman, Alabama. That's like saying she lived in Church Point, Louisiana. Joey, it's just like she is like she what? So anyway, Brother Joseph's. It's an old style ale. It was and its namesake is Brother Joseph. He was a monk and an artist at the monastery. Is that what you call it? Where?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at the monastery down here in the Coleman area. And he found things such as marbles and chunks of concrete and tile. And he built miniature shrines and buildings in Coleman, Alabama, of course, at the Ave Maria Grotto. So they've named their Belgian double Dubbel after Brother Joseph as a testament to his perseverance, hard work, creativity, and his indomitable spirit. So full-flavored Abbey-style ale with a complex taste and aroma. Brother Joseph's double is filled with specialty malt and full character. So that's what they say about it, and I'll probably wreck that a little bit, but I'll tell you, at the Ave Maria Grotto, this guy took marbles, a little piece of concrete and tile, and it looks like a miniature Italian village, and there's a religious context to it all. But just like us guys out making our knives and everything we put into it, you guys can look it up on your phones while you're there. Ave Maria Grotto, Coleman, Alabama. And the buildings and everything you built is just gorgeous. It looks like you're looking in some 600-year-old little Italian village at miniature. But anyway, I poured it into a cup, fresh from the brewery. I got a what do you call it? A growler, a glass growler of it, and it had a like a 2-finger head on it. Excellent retention on that, and it was a sign that the beer had a lot of sugar in it. But it was a beautiful copper color, transparent. It was really a gorgeous beer. It had a distinct Belgian yeast and berries, kind of a honey smell to it. Tasted quite good. It was pleasantly sweet. I do like sweet beers, and I don't. You guys aren't from up north, but I used to. What's a bad beer that you can drink down south? Pabst Blue Ribbon, I guess. Go get a
Oh,
Pabst Blue
Milwaukee.
Ribbon. Yeah,
Natty Light.
and see, yeah, exactly. Go ahead.
We're not talking down Natty Fatty or the Beast.
Well, that's okay.
That was the cornerstone of my college education.
And I drink
Natty Light.
I drink Michelob Ultra seltzer water these days. So
That's canoe beer.
yeah, exactly. But we had a beer we drank up there, and it was real sweet taste, and it was kind of the yuck beer, but I just like that sweet taste in the beer. But it's a nice malty flavor of Belgian yeast, and it kind of lingers in that taste if you know that taste. Not like Sasquatch poo, which tastes like urinal cakes. In the mouth, it was medium bodied, average carbonation, but it had an 8% alcohol volume. So guys,
pretty potent.
Like I said on a previous podcast, there's beers that ultralights that you go out and drink in the canoe all day, so that way you don't drown. And then there's beers that are dessert beers, and they were like, "Hey, I think I'm going to have one of these, and maybe two." And if you're at home, and it's a good beer. But overall, it was an excellent Belgian beer.
If you have that third one, you might be eating dessert off the floor.
Exactly right. But it had all the flavors of being right without being overly sweet. It had a high alcohol content, as I said, so you want to make sure you're careful with it. And but it really excelled. And the people in Alabama don't have anything to be ashamed of when it comes to the rest of the country and their beer making. That is one good beer. So, guys, if you can get yourself a hold of a Brother Joseph's Belgian style double bubble, DUBBLEL, from Straight to Ale Brewing Company, you'll enjoy it. You guys drinking anything good tonight?
Well, I'm conflicted because everybody that's listened to one episode of the Knife Perspective knows that I love me some Sweet Baby Jesus. Sweet Baby Jesus. It's a traditional chocolate peanut butter porter. It's the roasted malts are kind of flavor forward. Then you get the chocolate. It's got peanut butter on the finish.
Oh man!
It's a 6.2, so it's not too bad. You can enjoy that.
Is this a local brewery? Or is this?
It's from Duclaw, and I am actually not sure where they're from.
Huh. Let's see.
But it's Dew as in DU Claw.
Yeah. I have to travel through South Carolina to go up to a location in St. Paul's, North Carolina, up above, where south of the border is there, Dan?
Yep.
Yeah. I have a location. I have to go up there to work occasionally. So I'll have to look for some Sweet Baby Jesus when I come through South Carolina. But go ahead. You were finishing.
Baltimore, Maryland. What really conflicted me is I did a tour of duty at Fort Polk, Louisiana.
Uh-huh.
And a good day used to be, there was a crawfish shack right off post. We'd go get 15 pounds of crawfish and a 6-pack of Turbo Dog. And a buddy of mine came by. He just retired from Benning and came up to visit and brought me a sack of crawfish and 2 6-packs of Turbo Dog. And it was a taste of all of the good times. Like every good thing that happened to me in my early 20s was right there on the table.
So were you in the Army?
I was.
Awesome. Thank you. That's
awesome.
That. Yeah.
But a bit of beer in a bit of Springs, Louisiana. They do a purple haze. They do a couple others, but the Turbo Dog is their dark porter. And that was, man, a nice, good, spicy sack of crawfish and that deep, dark porter. That was a really good afternoon.
I have learned to love crawfish. Go ahead, Don.
No, I said I just bet, man, that combination like that.
Oh yeah. That's it. That's like none other. You'll never experience anything none other.
So, do y'all eat crawfish down in Florida, Don? Or
No,
y'all
we
too
don't.
south for that?
No, I ain't. To be honest with you, I never had none.
Have you?
Not that I know of.
They're pretty
Oh,
good.
we're gonna have to make that.
No, I've never had none down here.
We're gonna
We need
make
to
that
fix you
change,
some.
old Don.
Yeah, just send me some, brother. Yeah, I'll eat them. I try them. Ain't no problem with mine, man.
Make your tongue slap your blames out trying to get to it.
Have you eaten
Yeah,
gator?
that's right. Oh yeah,
You had gator?
Oh yes, possum, gator.
You better start eating
armadillo,
some python. You better start eating some python and iguana before it gets overrun.
Rattlesnake. I have a little bit of all of it, except crawfish, because we don't have them down here. Yeah,
yeah. You got
mud
lobsters.
bugs. We don't have no mud bugs down here.
There you go. There you go. There you go. Well,
see if it shows up. But that's the gator we had last week.
Ooh,
did you barbecue it?
Yes, wrapped it in bacon and smoked it. It was just it was like a little 14-pounder.
Man, Dan, you sure you're not Cajun?
my mom worked at Charity Heart. My dad went to LSU, so there's a 50-50 chance.
It's in his system, Joe.
I think Dan got some Cajun in him.
Como si, como sa?
It's in his system. It's in his system, that's for sure. Hey, guys, I got to go get another beer, so let's take a little break.
Hey listeners, let's take a moment today to thank one of our sponsors for today's show, and that sponsor is Ameribraid Grinders. Eric and Kevin over at Ameribraid have sold thousands of these grinders, and they are super nice guys, and their customer service is excellent. I would know. I've been personally using their 2x72 grinder now for 2 years, and it has changed my knife making to a whole new level. So if you're in the market for or looking to upgrade from that 1x30 or 2x42, then give Ameribraid a look. There you'll find they have 3 packages of grinders to offer. They have a mastery package, a foundations package, and a get grinding package, in which all of them come at different price points. So I'm sure you'll find something that'll suit your needs as a knife maker. Also, Ameribraid has a ton of innovative attachments for their grinders. So listeners, you can find out about all of this at www.ameribraid.com. Go give them a look, see what they have to offer today.
Oleg Bashevic has been making stabilized wood and other supplies for knife makers for almost a decade. His stabilized wood products have been used by many of the best and most well-known knife makers in the world. This wood, when turned into knife parts, are stable to humidity, water, snow, oils, and other materials that would prematurely wear out a knife handle. He works out of his shop in Tula, Russia, and produces natural wood products that are as beautiful as Russia's famed Fabergé eggs. Knife makers around the world will tell you that his blocks should not be cut and placed on display. Oleg has distribution centers in Russia and in the United States. He's shipping right out of the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area, so if you're looking for something in the States, you can have it in just a few days. I guarantee you'll be excited to get your package that comes wrapped beautifully, already polished, so that you can see the most beautiful grain and colors that he impregnates into each piece of wood. You can find Oleg not only on Facebook, but you can also find him at knife-wood.com. That's knife-wood.com on the internet. Go out and take a look at Oleg's products. I'm guaranteeing you'll be happy to put them on your next knife. And now back to the show. All right, well, welcome back. So how does one cook a gator, Dan, coming back to that?
I will not claim to be an expert.
That's okay.
But in this particular case, as I understand it, this is the first time I've had whole gator. I've had tail, but this is the first time we've done a whole thing. And it's fairly lean, so we wrapped it in bacon so it didn't dry out. And in this case, we smoked it at 250 with a little cherry, some hickory, and live oak.
Yeah.
And it was delicious.
So did you order the gator, or how did you go about getting the gator up in your area?
We did. So the upside of being really culinary focused in the knife industry is that you get to be friends with a lot of chefs.
Oh yeah.
So one of my chefs, it turns out they had an extra gator, like it fell off the back of the truck or something.
Yeah.
So a couple of us, I got a little piece of river property. So a bunch of us got together last weekend, and he showed up with an alligator. So we had alligator and suckling pig.
This is all sounding
nice.
good
Wow.
because what we have to do is, we just voted Dan in as an honorary Knives Templar, but I'm wondering, Luke left us to pursue other adventures, nighttime IT work. So, Dan, I don't know what Kyle's paying you, but number one, we will bring you on the show right now full time, but you have to let us have the annual Knives Templars get together at your house.
It turns out that both my morals and my loyalties are entirely negotiable.
I hope Kyle's not listening.
Not either.
but we would be taking you from a guy who make knives for a living, so we got to consider that.
No, I could not. I could never leave Kyle.
No.
But nobody says I can't have a little sideshow.
That's
I
true.
can have a little show on the side.
Well,
There
we're
you go.
always looking for a stand-in host, so you never know after this. Guys, I'm going to go on to some news this week. And as far as the news goes, just a couple things. Nothing crazy's happened except in Washington, D.C., and we don't talk about that. So the first thing is, guys, Blade Show is taking place right now, as a matter of fact. Joey, why are you not at Blade Show?
Oh, I just couldn't make it work. Had a ton of stuff going on, so it's a good thing I didn't, because my wife would have had no one to call.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah,
that's true. So God works in wonderful ways.
Yes, he does.
And he really does.
Yep.
And the other thing is, now you haven't gone to the Texas where you're going to sell the knives yet. Have you been there yet?
Belleville?
Belleville, yeah.
No, and I'm not going to make that either. I'm not going to make that.
You got a lot of knives to sell.
I do have a bunch. Yeah.
Would you like to
Scarcity creates demand.
Yeah.
Would you like to borrow a backpack to walk around Blade Show in Atlanta?
And backpack?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to go there brown bagging.
Me worked up, aren't
I
you?
just wanted to watch him throw you through the doors, kind of like in that movie Casino. Make sure you open the door with his head.
Yeah, I'm not going to go there brown bagging. That's for sure.
I think it's time for Joey Terrio to have a knife drop, and I have a feeling they'll all move pretty quick if you put them out there in the right spots.
Yeah.
They'll be fighting them over them. So it's a shame. Hope you're able to make Atlanta with us, though.
Yeah. That's
You seem more positive when I said you and I and Eric could get a room together and share a room. You seem like real excited about that.
I was like, hey, whatever, let's do it.
What
guys,
happens at Blade Show stays at Blade Show.
You guys, as long as you guys stay in your bed, you're fine. I'm got my bed.
Our bed.
Hey, you're going to earn that room one way or another.
Well, if we can get a suite that's got two beds and a pull-out couch, we can all crash in one room, because I'm always looking to use up some points. But if you want your own room, pay for your own room. Matter of fact, probably I would say after a night with me in a room, not snoring or anything, just my personality, you'll probably be getting your own room. So, guys, at Blade Show is taking place right now, and I'm not going to go into too much about it other than check your Facebook listings, check your vendors, check those companies that you use. They're all out there right now, probably running some good deals as well. But Blade Show is going to be running tonight through Sunday, I believe. Well, it says it's a 2-day celebration. So is it 17th and 18th? So that's today and tomorrow only? Okay.
That's my understanding.
Yep.
Okay, not the Sunday like we have in Atlanta. So be sure and get out there. And if you're listening to this now, you relate.
That's right.
Yes.
Atlanta's coming up. So that's old news. New news is I am so excited. I've got paid for my knives. And you guys know I've got anvil on the brain. I think Kyle said if I quit thinking about an anvil, one will come into my life. And well, that just hasn't worked.
It'll happen. It'll happen.
Oh, it will. And just wait for the right anvil to come in your life, and you'll be happy for your lifetime. I heard
settle for Mr. Anvil right now.
Yes, yeah. I heard that if you if you rush into an anvil, there's likely going to be a divorce because you're going to find a better anvil down the road. So just wait for Mrs. Right to come into your arms.
Or hear me out, stock removal, where you don't require
Yes.
any anvils.
I love beating steel, especially steel I cannot identify, and I'm looking for micro cracks. I mean, that's my life. That is my life. So,
Stephen Fowler, he's a great friend of mine, and I know he's a journeyman. If he isn't a master, I know he's testing soon.
Yeah.
But he does both stock removal and forging, and he has the best line. He said, I forge because I like to hit stuff with hammers.
I would say I can attest to that. And then I like to go back and do the stock removal because it's like, oh, look how easy this is. I'm just zipping right through it with this. And just on the swag table. It's
then you're using the wrong steels.
Oh, I'm using non-normalized leaf springs right off the car. I'm trying to beat them into shape, fully hardened. Then go to a piece of 5670 that does air harden and go, oh, look how easy that goes through. But no, I went out and bought I got my Parks 50, and I went ahead and got some extra cans to put that oil in. But I also got another can to put some is it vermiculite in to help? Yeah. So I've got to go to the store tomorrow to get topsoil and all that stuff for a garden. So I'm going to pick up some vermiculite at that time. But Batson's is coming up. And also, I'll come back to that. They say that once you find the right anvil in your life, that all these other anvils come out of nowhere and they start trying to come into your life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
because you're confident. You're walking around confident in the knowledge that you've got an anvil and that you can work the steel, that you can just pound it, and you're
There's
safe.
got to be an analogy with something here. I'm losing it though. I don't know, but Batson's is coming up March 31st, April 1st and 2nd, and they're going to have a great symposium out there. It's a knife show, bladesmithing, blacksmithing show. It's going to be conducted at Tannehill Ironworks at the Historical State Park in McCalla, Alabama. It's going to be a normal show, and you can go out there. But if you want to do some learning, there's a $10 fee to do some blacksmithing, and there's going to be food out there. Our buddy Josh Howard is going to be cooking the pig, and I am definitely going to that. Mark, you still planning on going?
Not
Possibly?
for the hammer in. I'm going to Blade Show.
Blade Show. Okay, I'll see you there. Joey, any chance you're driving over to Alabama?
No, that's the same week that Belleville takes place, and I can't make Belleville.
You're already tied up there.
Yeah.
Don, you don't leave Florida. You spent too many miles on the road for a career, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I can understand that.
That's for me, man. I'm runt.
How's your back all those years on the road?
Good.
Just fine? Well, that's good. I've heard a lot of guys that were on the road, they often suffer from hip or back issues with arthritis and things like that.
No, thank the Lord I'm good. Thanks.
That's good to hear. Good to hear. You just don't want to spend any time on the road. You've seen it all.
Not only if I get paid for it.
Yeah. Well, guys,
that's what I'm talking about.
Years getting paid for it.
Well, guys, go out there and check out Batson's. If you're in the area or want to come down to it, it's going to be a fun day. I'm going down on Saturday. Speaking of that, how far across the country did you drive? Were you a long haul, or did you drive local routes, or both, or what?
I drove southeast, South Carolina, North Carolina, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, mostly Florida though.
Yeah.
Majority of my career was here in Florida. So
yeah. Is that before electronic records?
Oh yeah. That's 36, 37, 38 years ago. Yeah.
So
I'd rather ran into the logbook though, better than electronics, man.
Yeah.
You can't get
We've got my company that I work for, when I'm not Superman, is or Fat Boy. That's it. Superman and his sidekick Fat Boy. I'm Fat Boy. And but when I'm not working at Knives, our company has a very large fleet. So I tell you what, those guys have got a job. It's don't take your truckers driving down the road for granted, because without them everything stops. Guys, I got some feedback. It was got some feedback, and I know you want to hear it because it's nice.
Is it about microfractures?
Actually, it's not. It's
Oh man.
It's about. It says one. It's from JRSV. I don't know if that's what JRSV is.
JRSV, Steve.
Oh, I got
Junior
that once in high school.
Junior Savant. I don't know JRSV.
I knew who SRV is.
Well, this is RSV.
Oh no, that's different.
Anyway, Mr. JRSV or Mrs. JRSV says, "This is one of those podcasts that gets played as soon as it's released. It's real, it's honest, handled with aplomb." Somebody look that up real quick. Aplomb, APLOMB. A great
Well,
way.
thank you.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
Let's see.
A great
that
way.
means y'all styly.
Siri.
Yeah.
No, I'm just picking.
Nice.
Here we go. That's good.
That's either a hammer or it's y'all got style.
Hey Siri,
It's
what is the definition of aplomb?
I
She
got it
won't
here.
say it,
It's
but it's
self-confidence or assurance, especially when in a demanding situation.
such as when
Ooh,
you're using.
Thanks.
Oh, I guess it was Dan. So when
Wow.
you're using unknown steel that has
That's right.
microfractures.
You do it with a plum.
Yeah.
Ah, yes, and confidence. And it says it's a great way to check out from the crazy world and remember what's important in life. So hey, thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Good deal. Thanks, man. Appreciate
And
it.
I will.
I mean,
And I
the way
will.
you teed that up, I thought it was going to be a complaint.
Well, we did
There
have
is.
one time, and we just we our first one was a complaint that I spent too much time trying to be funny, and so I had to reel that in because of one listener, and the other one, and he also said that we had too many
I think
commercials.
we're still joking on that one.
So we picked up more commercials.
See, y'all went with a different direction than I told Kyle. First of all, if they're complaining, that means they're listening.
Yep.
That's right.
Secondly, we're having fun. If you don't like it, you can go to the next podcast,
Yeah.
That's true.
which is why we have my wife and Kyle's. We have 4 listeners right now.
There you go.
Well, with that being said, and for our listener that loves commercials, we'll be right back. Hey guys, what was your source of inspiration when you first decided to make knives? You know, many go to the books and also some go to the web, but many also head to YouTube for videos. Well, you know, we are fortunate enough to have Eric Rivers from the Rivers Experience as a co-host on the Knives Templars. But you know what? He's also a sponsor, and I tell you, 27,000 followers can't be wrong in following his skilled and educational regular videos that teach the fine arts of making beautiful knives. I know because I'm a subscriber to his channel and I learned at my pace and without making those mistakes by walking in the dark regarding knife making. Be sure and check out his channel, The Rivers Experience, on YouTube or his website at theriversexperience.com. And now back to our show. All right, well, welcome back. Welcome back.
Your complaints are better than ours. I got sophomoric humor, lowbrow.
I've read some of yours because when I saw ours, that was our very first ever posted on Apple. And when I read that, I was like, well, what are these other guys getting? And Knife Talk, I mean, they've just got like a zombie following there. Nothing but great things. And they deserve it. They deserve it. It's a good podcast. I listen to it every week. Your podcast, a lot of people attack you, Dan. And I was like, and knowing you on the show as a listener, I could probably tell this probably doesn't bother Dan that much.
You know, it used to.
Oh.
One of the advantages of doing the E2E podcast was I got some experience. And nobody ever likes to hear that they're an idiot. But, you know, if you hear it enough, you just become immune to it, which is kind of where I am now. And it comes down to, that's not a job. We don't get paid to do the podcast. If it's not fun, I'm not going to do it.
Right.
Yep.
So Kyle and I, my goal is for us to have fun and hopefully that we've given some piece of information.
Yeah.
But I legitimately hope that at the end of the podcast, you've learned something. I'd like for you to be entertained, but in the end, I don't get paid to do this.
No.
You know, I'm going to go on. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about. And I hope that we're like-minded and some other people enjoy it.
Yeah.
I'm
Cheers
going
to
to give
that,
you my
Dan.
opinion. Yeah, cheers.
Cheers.
I'm
Cheers, man.
well said. I'm going to give you my opinion because I own this podcast. And that is, I agree with you.
Editing gives you phenomenal power.
It does. It does. As
Ask Kyle.
as Mark says at the beginning of the podcast, why does it just say my soupy? Why did you cut me off there? You never asked, Mark, why did you just say you drinking my soupy and cut it off there? I don't know.
I
you ever
did.
wonder
I
that,
was going
Mark?
to put in a complaint and write it on the podcast.
Well, if you want to say something different, let me know what you're saying and let me know where to put it in because I can just plug it right in. We'll change your word.
Soupy.
But okay, Guadalupe. So, daddy. So, did you listen to our Christmas special, Dan?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Go back and listen to it.
Yeah, no,
we
I'm
know
trying
you
to
didn't.
think. I got to be honest. I think I've listened to about 3 months worth, but I don't think I went as far back as Christmas.
Well, you can go to the top of the second hour and listen to us, and you'll listen to Porkhouse Playhouse and Odysseer and his flatulence gun. I mean, everybody laughs at farts. So the Christmas flatulence story. So, and Mark, who were you in that?
I was Tone Loco.
Tone Loco. You didn't use the voice, man.
Yeah.
Funky Cole Medina.
Yeah. So, so with that, yeah, you're talking about your podcast. I don't know about your sponsorships, this, that, and the other. The studio cost $300 and something a year. We pay for our own equipment. We do not charge anybody for a sponsorship. We say they sponsor us. Well, they do. They sponsor us by offering their name. So if I say that go buy Ameribraid, it's because Ameribraid has said, yes, please use our name. We want it. But we also, there's 3 people in this podcast that are Ameribraid users. We just don't. I'm not going to throw out, Jerry's grinders because Jerry makes grinders and wants to be on here. It's got to be something we believe in, and we want to promote that. And then these 2 hours every couple of weeks and the 6 hours editing it is all at our expense. But I don't really care if I become popular, people listen or not. It's something that we enjoy doing. But in the meantime, the availability of products and services that we use as makers every day all depend on the health of an industry. So the more that we all feed into that benefits us all in some extent. Talking to an accountant today, he's like, well, if you ever plan on making a profit, you ought to go ahead and form an LLC. And then you can take the podcast off and this, that, and the other. So we're right there. He said I give too many knives away.
Podcasting is the one thing that makes less money than knife making.
Oh yeah. But look what it does right here. It's stewardship, it's fellowship, it's name some other type of ship. Battleship. It's good mental health. It gets out there, and if we, and then somebody that says, "Hey, I look forward to," and when it pops up, I listen to it, and it takes me away for a little while. That's what it's all about.
If you forget that you've been hand sanding for the 45 minutes that you listen to my podcast,
right?
I really feel like a success.
Yeah. And I don't know what your numbers are, but our numbers based on Apple and Spotify and doing the analytics, and with podcasts, it's extremely impossible to find where your analytics fall amongst others, unless you're, a Joe Rogan or one of the top 100.
We're such a niche market.
Right. But based on, the number of downloads you get, and it says, well, you're in the top 15% of your category. And I don't know if that's out of 6 billion podcasts, but, we're in that top 10 and 15 in many of the categories just based on the number of downloads. But that's not thousands, that's hundreds of downloads at this point. So, but you know what? It's really not about that.
A mighty oak tree starts as a little acorn.
Yeah.
Yep.
But again, have fun.
That's what it's about.
If you enjoy doing it, just do that and you're going to enjoy it. And hopefully that'll come across and people will enjoy it too.
Yeah.
But this is not, we tell a lot of guys, it's the old joke of, how do you make $1 million as a knife maker? You start with 2.
That's right.
You don't get into
Oh, man, that's
podcasting
so
to make
true.
money. Like
No.
you do this because you want to hang out with your buddies. You want to share some information. This is not a money making opportunity.
Yeah, and for us guys that want to do something with our hands, I would say that stop it, Dan. Don't say anything. For us guys that want to do something with our hands, I would probably say that knives wasn't the first thing that you've done. You know, Don's done a variety of things. Joey, what other things have you done in your life besides?
Well,
knives?
my father was a carpenter, so
Yeah,
I've worked with wood just about all my 42 years on this earth.
yeah,
So that and welding.
yeah.
I was a welder.
And
I did rough carpentry, foundation work, and then did 10 years doing custom furniture.
yeah, and that's artistry in itself. I owned a fishing lure company, and I just got tired of spending all my time putting other people out on the water and not myself. But I mean, I had my 15 minutes of fame a couple times on ESPN, but I'm making knives now.
If you don't mind, off air, I got something I want to talk to you about.
Sure.
I could use some advice from somebody that knows the lure industry.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I've been out of it since 2015, but 2012, excuse me. But I've still got a lot of friends that fish professionally. 99% of what I did was bass fishing related.
All right.
But yeah, I still paint some lures occasionally for some friends. Mark, you did a lot with your hands. Your hands were registered as
Deadly
lethal weapons. I love it when he says, "If you kill somebody, it's murder." Your hands. What is it? What is that movie? Down in what is it? Come on, help me out here. It's Quentin Tarantino. Okay, dead air.
Yeah,
Pulp
it's
Fiction?
not
He's
War
talk-
Dogs.
he's-
And it's
yeah.
not.
Pulp Fiction?
It's not the.
No. He's talking to the Bruce Lee character, something out in Beverly Hills. But
Down
Bruce
and
Lee,
Out in Beverly Hills.
it's not down and out in Beverly Hills, but it's something. God,
You talking about Kill
Yeah,
Bill?
Lethal Weapon.
look it up. Quentin Tarantino movies, guys. It's one of the last ones. Had Leonardo DiCaprio and
and Brad Pitt?
yeah.
That's something Hollywood.
Yeah, well, that movie
Yeah.
where the Bruce Lee character says, "I would fight you, but I can't because my hands are registered as lethal weapons." And he says, "Hey, Frito, if he says Frito or something, but he says, hey, Frito, if you hit somebody and kill them, it's manslaughter or murder or something. You know, everybody's hand's a lethal weapon if you do that." But anyway, Mark, I would say that I went a long way around to saying that you've got a fancy judo chop.
Yeah, he's saying, "Eat with
That's
kill."
right.
I was kind of thinking of Sandy the Squirrel and SpongeBob.
That's pretty close.
So you are a Taekwondo master? Jiu-jitsu
Taekwondo
master.
martial artist. Yep.
Taekwondo. Yes. And what level?
I'm second degree black belt.
So don't mess with him, guys.
Yeah, my son was a first degree, third level
Nice.
black belt.
So in that
Before
you
I blew
train.
my knee out, I took third in nationals in Kodokan Judo.
Nice.
Yeah, judo. Yeah.
And I actually became a first degree. I ate poo.
That's right.
The night. The night.
Yeah. Poo flung do, and I ate the poo. So hey, let's take another quick break. We've got lots of commercials. They pay our bills.
And I need to pee.
That's right.
So.
There you go.
All knife makers need abrasives, plain and simple. Here at Knives Templars, we're proud to partner with Phoenix Abrasives. I used to get my belts from another company, but they spent more time on marketing than they did customer service, sometimes taking 2+ weeks to ship my order. That's not the case with Phoenix Abrasives. They're obsessed with committing all of their resources to customer satisfaction. Whether you're using a 2x72, 2x42, 1x30, or something else, they've got you covered. They even carry Rhino wet sandpaper. So go to phoenixabrasives.com/shop and enter promo code Templars10 for 10% off your next order.
All right, guys, welcome back. I think it's time for a little Maker's Mark because we haven't taken the time to get to know Mr. Dan Eastland, and he's with Dogwood Custom Knives, and he's actually got a long, cool story. I read his story. I polished up again today, Dan, but I had read it in the past when I first connected with you guys through Kyle, and I actually enjoyed your story. And I saw the picture of you and Kyle when you were young pups around 2012, hanging out at Blade Show. And welcome to our show officially as a Knives Templar guest.
Thank you very much. I'm flattered to be here.
Yeah, well, tell that story. Tell us a little bit about you.
I mean, I guess I could go. Do you want me to go?
Wherever you think that pivotal moment is, if it was you popped out of mama and said, I got to make a knife, that's important to say. If you find that point in your life.
I guess a little bit of the backstory is that I had always worked with my hands. My first attempt at college, it was right out of the Army, and there was way more rugby and beer than there was class, and it just wasn't a good thing. Got married, and it turns out
I majored in fraternity my first couple of semesters, so
all the best people do.
I had a little time to think about it as well. But go right ahead.
It turns out having to bring your grades home to your wife is an entirely different dynamic. So I had gone back to school, was working on an engineering degree, and my oldest son was born, and he was premature, had quite a few health issues, and someone was going to have to stay home to take care of him. And I was in school full time doing side jobs in construction, and my wife was really the breadwinner at the time. She's got a corporate gig, so I dropped out of school and became a stay-at-home dad, was taking care of the boy, and was going slowly insane. I had spent my entire life either in the outdoors or working with my hands. So my wife, Beth, and a friend of mine kind of conspired to get me into woodworking, because that was something I could do while he was napping. I could take the monitor down to the basement. I could work. Beth traveled a lot, but I could put him down at night, take the monitor down, I could work. And I did that for about 10 years doing custom furniture and that sort of thing. And there was a blacksmith down the road from us. And it started off with, it's a convoluted story that involves citronella torches, and I'll save that for later. But I wound up hanging out at this blacksmith shop, and he needed some woodworking done. And two healthy, red-blooded males. Of course, eventually we started talking about knives and axes, and he finally just said, hey, Dan, come down on Saturday. I'm going to be puttering around. I'll show you how to make a knife, and we can be done with this. And it was, people talk about an epiphany, but it was a true on choir of angels singing, ray of sunshine on the anvil, James Earl Jones whispering into my ear, this is why you were born. And I knew that more than anything in the world, I wanted to make knives. So I started working. That guy, the blacksmith in question, was Mark Hopper. He's with the Goat and Hammer. Absolutely phenomenal. He's a master blacksmith in England, France, and the United States, and makes knives as a side gig. But he moves his shop back to Atlanta, which was about 40 miles from where we lived at the time. And it just wasn't practical to drop the kids off at school. By this time, we had another boy. Get to his shop, be useful, and then come back. So I got a copy of the roster for the Georgia Custom Knife Makers Guild, which I want to take a second and plug, is an absolute phenomenal guild. They were the pattern that we used to start the South Carolina guild, and then we helped some guys stand up a Louisiana guild. And it's all about teaching. There's no rankings in the guild. There's no master. The entire goal, we had kind of talked about helping the industry as a whole, and the term they use is a rising tide lifts all boats. Their idea is if we help people, it improves the industry. Improving the industry helps all of us. And they are entirely focused on teaching. And it's one of the reasons there are so many phenomenal knife makers coming out of Georgia. But I got a copy of their membership list, and I just started working down the list.
Yeah.
I didn't appreciate how much work and annoyance it was to take on an apprentice. But I knew I wanted to make knives, and these guys make knives. And I kept hammering away. I showed up at meetings, and finally Andy Roy at Fiddleback Forge was like, fine, look, you can come in my shop, but here's the deal. It's August. You're going to sand my Carta, and you're going to sweep my floor, and it's going to be miserable, and I'm not going to pay you, and it's at least 3 days a week. I'm like, all right. So I was in there in Georgia in August in an unair-conditioned basement, sanding my Carta handles and doing whatever scut work there was.
Right.
And after a couple of months of that, Andy kind of sat down. It's like, all right, if you're not going to leave, I guess I got to teach you how to make knives. So you're going to do all the scut work that you've had to do before. And I'm going to teach you to do some work on my knives. And any leftover time, if you pay for the materials, you can work on your own knives. I'm going to need 40 hours a week, 5 days a week, and I'm still not going to pay you. And I said, all right. And wound up doing 9 months in Andy's shop before he graduated me as a maker.
Wow.
I was the second person to graduate from Fiddleback, Dylan Fletcher being the first. And that was, man, I hate to admit it, 15 years ago. And I like to say I haven't worked a day in the last 15 years.
So how do you like Andy Roy? What a guy.
Andy and I are two very large personalities.
Yeah.
And when we were in one small shop, it didn't work so well.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we're not in one small shop, we get along much better.
That whole group over there is pretty good at Pops. But I tell you, Andy is definitely the face of Pops as far as, getting out and being where people see him, and not, I don't mean to take it away from the other guys there because, you do see their social presence, but Andy has a lot of social presence.
Andy is a huge personality. I mean,
well, he's got that Cajun in him, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know I've been watching him make pepper sauce for the last several weeks online.
And he has done a phenomenal amount for the industry as far as the number of apprentices he's been willing to take on.
Right.
Like I said, I didn't appreciate how much of a commitment to time it is to take on an apprentice. And from what I understand, he averaged either 9 or 10 people came into his shop for every one that actually graduated the program.
Wow.
So he has put a phenomenal amount of time into teaching makers, knowing that 90% of them will never be a maker.
I don't mean to sidestep too far away, but how do you love that new shop they're going to be getting into, or they're moving into over in Gainesville?
So here's the thing. I was raised Catholic, so I'm immune to guilt and jealousy. But if I were capable of either emotions, I would be a little jealous of the new shop.
I agree. I agree. What a building. That is set up for any type of hammer in. They can have everything except for a Brooks and Dunn concert there. Probably only because Brooks and Dunn's don't play together anymore, but it's a phenomenal
and that's
location.
for people that eat white sauce on their barbecue. Like nobody does that.
No. I want you to know I'm from Alabama.
Sauce.
And I don't eat that crap.
White sauce.
I can't. We put that beep on everything.
Now, do they have white sauce anywhere besides Alabama, guys?
I've never seen it.
They have it down here, but they specifically tell you it's Alabama sauce.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know why people they love it here, but I don't touch it.
You know,
So
Beth and I. So Beth grew up in Columbia. Spent a lot of time on the South Carolina coast. She's
yeah,
a diehard Carolina girl.
yeah.
And one of the few conflicts we have in our relationship is, for some reason known only to God and herself, she thinks that mustard has a place in barbecue sauce. I
oh,
mean, we all know
Mm.
that it's tomato base,
Mm.
sweet up front, hot on
Right,
the finish.
right.
That's barbecue
Well,
sauce.
I
But
grew up
she's
in
got
North.
some
that's right.
crazy idea about mustard in her sauce.
I
So
grew up on the South Carolina North Carolina border, and I had an uncle that had a barbecue, so I can tell you. But I have found the error of my ways and don't eat that chopped barbecue anymore. Unless I'm up there, I'll eat one. But
Pulled
I,
pork is where it's
pulled
at.
pork is the way to go. So, did she teach you to shag?
Oddly enough, I actually learned to shag in college.
Yeah.
Um, and side note, her dad, Rick Shackelford, is actually in the Shag Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
He's got a star in Myrtle Beach.
Now, for you other guys, shag is a dance. It's a
Oh,
dance.
I thought you were talking like we're shagging, baby. Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah,
Yeah.
baby. Yeah.
He's like, don't you be talking about the man's wife like that.
Oh, yeah.
No,
All of a sudden, everybody thought you were
Yeah.
awfully brave.
Yeah, I was like telling a veteran of the U.S. military that makes knives for a living and talking like that. No, I growing up in that area and figuring we were probably somewhat close in age. How old are you, Dan?
I am, hang on, carry the 48.
Oh, I got you by 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Man,
But
young man.
Young
man.
You've lived much better than I have.
Yeah, actually, I was. Pardon me for thinking that I was your age because bless your heart, you're still 48. And it sneaks up on you quick. And 58 doesn't feel that bad, Don. I know you and I are much closer than age, but other than
Yeah,
it
we are.
hurts to get out of bed in the morning, life's not so bad.
I'm
But
Southern enough to still be reeling from the bless
Yeah.
your heart.
yeah. But
I feel like I'm wearing short pants.
I still have friends from the Carolinas and from college and growing up there, and some of them still have their loafers and still do their old shagging thing. I kind of giggle at them. I was more of a Trans Am and a hillbilly kind of guy, but anyway, I had some people that they drink what Tom Collins and walk around with their little finger up in the air, and
pinky in the air, wearing their penny loafers and their high waters,
doing that shaggy dance. Do that shaggy dance. So
I can whistle the tune, but I'm more of a bonfire and bourbon kind of guy.
I hear you. What's your favorite bourbon?
Favorite is hard. I mean, that's like trying to pick a favorite child.
Oh.
For a long time, my go-to was Blanton's, and then everybody discovered it, and it got like
hard to
Weller's
get.
expensive.
Yeah.
I like a little Buffalo Trace. I like some Knob Creek. I hate to admit it, but I like the lighter bourbons.
Right.
I can respect Brooker's, but that's a little heavier than I like. That's too much caramel, too much acidity.
Yeah.
But if I it's not the finest bourbon, but my go-to is still Blanton's.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't say Jack and Coke. I like my Kentucky bourbon too. Now there's a place for Jack and Coke when you're in college, but
I was raised that a man only drinks one mixer and ice counts.
That's true. That's true. So I'm very fortunate. My son lives in Lexington, Kentucky, so we get to drive the Bourbon Trail.
Oh, nice.
Driving up to go over and see him. But I like Knob Creek, Maker's Mark, and Four Roses are my three.
You don't see Four Roses a lot down here.
Yeah, it's a good bourbon. Joey, what do you got in the cup tonight?
Oh, some old Knobby Creek.
Knob Creek.
Knobby Creek.
Is that a styrofoam cup?
I always drink it out of styrofoam.
And it hadn't burned through it yet?
No, it sure hasn't.
It ain't but 90 proof. That's not going to burn through a cup.
Not going to burn through.
Well, hey, now are you full-time knife maker?
I am.
Wow.
I've been full-time for about 12 years now.
Yeah. How is that lifestyle? You know, that all of us guys, it's very easy for a guy that makes knives and he makes 4 or 5 a month. And he's like, oh, you know, I make $1,000 in a month, or I can make $2,000 a month. I'm going to do this for a living. But there's a big jump from going to insurance, marketing, and all those other things that go with it, supplies, and down the road that you have to start keeping receipts for your CPA and all those people to take care of. So
The
tell us the real
analogy I
story.
like to use is professional football.
Mm-hmm.
There are some guys that are making millions of dollars playing football.
Right.
For every one of them, there's thousands of guys playing college ball. And for every one of them, there's millions of guys that played high school ball.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's some guys that absolutely kill it and they make big money. But the vast majority of the NFL are making league minimum.
Yeah.
They're paying their bills and they're not getting much more. And it's the same thing with knife making. I mean, you've got some marquee guys that are out there killing it.
Right.
But to your point, once you have to make rent, once you have to pay insurance, once it goes from need to or want to have to,
right,
it really cuts your profit margin. I was very fortunate in that, like I said, I was a stay-at-home dad, and early in my career, my wife sat down and she's like, "Look, this is how much childcare full time for 2 kids would cost. This is your budget. If you do not exceed this number, then you're not negatively affecting the family." Because I did 100% of the childcare. One of the reasons I got into knife making was if a kid got sick, I could just not go into the shop that day.
Mm-hmm.
She's got a corporate gig, so her never having to just stay home had a benefit. She had good health insurance, which is something a lot of guys, when they think about making the jump, they don't think about the benefits.
Yes.
Health insurance, retirement. So it's not just making your nut every month. It's benefits.
Yeah.
So she had a solid corporate job with those benefits, and I had a budget. So those first 7-8 years, when you're making your name, when you're filling your outfit in your shop,
right.
I mean, after leaving Andy's shop, being fully set up and going out on my own, trying to make do with a K&G and a bench vise, it was rough. I mean, you've got to be prepared for some lean years to be able to buy equipment.
Yeah.
And build your name. I mean, Picasso, everybody else's paints and canvas didn't cost any more than Picasso's.
Yeah.
He had a name and a style, and it took him years to develop that. So we joke about it on the knife perspective, but I tell people, don't go full time. Don't ruin a hobby by doing it for money.
Right.
But if you're going to, you got to have a plan for those lean years.
Well, let me ask you this. I don't want to lose my train of thought, because I want to know, how many weeks of vacation does Dogwood provide you guys a year?
Vacation? Could you explain this term to me? I'm
yeah.
not familiar with it.
I mean, you got to be up to at least 3 or 4 weeks of vacation a year, paid vacation. Anything there?
So about 5 or 6 years ago, I started renting shop space. I'd been in the basement for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And it became a work-life balance thing. I didn't realize it. Beth pointed out to me, she said, "You're working 18 hours a day."
Yeah.
You can't, that's not sustainable. But especially when she was traveling, man, I'd put the kids to bed and I'd go down to the shop. I was just going to do 1 or 2 things, and it'd be 4 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd go to bed, and then I'd be up at 7. I'd get the kids breakfast. I'd get them off to school, and I was back in the shop.
You know, I hear Jeff Fader on Knife Talk, and he's also got Full Blast podcast, I believe, another great podcast out there. Very talented maker. And he said that when he got his shop off of his property from one of his shows I listened to, it gave him that work-life balance as well, because it was too easy to go out to the shop and be there all the time. Is that what you found?
Once it was off-site, when I was off work, when I was home, I was home.
Mm-hmm.
it made it easier to stop thinking about the shop, and it was impossible for me to just go down. And it was vital, because she was right. I had kept that pace up for a couple of years, but nobody can keep that pace.
Are you your only employee?
I am. I've had a couple of apprentices. I've tried a couple of configurations, and one of the things I've struggled with is, with only one person in the shop, there is a limit. Eventually you hit the limit. You can only produce so much product as one person.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got a couple of directions you can go. You can raise your prices, which may or may not be supported. You can bring employees on, and there's a lot of legal behind employees. There's a lot of cost. A lot of guys are like, I only make $8 an hour. Yeah, but you're costing your employer $16 an hour.
Right.
Yep.
So there's liability and cost, or you can try to outsource parts of your labor, but then you're putting your reputation in somebody else's hands.
True.
Andy, and this is probably going to surprise some of y'all, but I'm not a very good people person. It turned out that I don't do well with other people in my shop touching my stuff. So after a couple of attempts, I realized that trying to bring other people on, it didn't work for me. The other thing is, it takes 6 or 8 months to train somebody for them to become useful. Mm-hmm. Like for the first 6 or 8 months, they're actually costing you money. Yep. And very few people love knife making enough to stick at it for 6 or 8 months.
Right.
So I had this revolving door of, it was costing me money to bring these people in. They never stayed for 8 months because knife making, I'm sorry, I'm running through all the words that I'm allowed to say on air, is unpleasant.
Yeah.
And it's hard. A lot of people want to say they're a knife maker. Very few people want to do what it takes to be a knife maker.
Right.
So the path I wound up taking was build my name. I've walked my pricing up a little bit, but I am now looking at being able to branch out. I've started doing mid-techs where I rent production time on other people's lines built to my specs. And I'm now trying to make the move into a custom market where Dogwood Custom Knives will be kind of a Skunks Works.
Okay.
That's where I'll do my experimentation. That's where I'll do, how far can we go? Like, what's the limit of this material? And then once I've defined that, I'll move it over to a production line where I pay a third party for their production capability.
Right. Right.
Because I looked into, I think it was the last time I looked into it, it was going to be $8 million to stand up a Haas CNC machine, a surface grinder, and a machinist for a couple of years, because you don't make money year one on something like that. Mm-hmm. So if you want to keep it in-house, the last time I looked at it, it was going to be $8 million.
Wow.
So instead of trying to cough that up front at 48 years old, I'm working with third parties.
Have you thought about using leaf springs and working your way around the microfractures to
microfractures
save money?
Is what intimidates me. Like
you could save money though.
How to weld one.
I'm gonna have to let you borrow my microscope, Chip, so you can pick
I
those
figured
fractures up.
I figured for $8 million, he had already had a microscope and a spectrometer.
Dang it, microscope! That's what I forgot. So $8,107
plus a microscope. Yep. Yes.
Dan, you do a lot of kitchen knives, right, buddy?
I do. That's 80% of my business now.
Beautiful work too.
Mm-hmm. You sell to a lot of high-end chefs too.
I do.
Yeah.
Would this be a good time for a commercial break, and we can come back and talk about the kitchen industry? Because that's been a whole rabbit hole that I've enjoyed going down.
Would you like to take us to commercial, Dan?
Mostly I need to pee, and I feel like it's going to be really awkward if I just pick up this Gatorade bottle right in front of y'all.
You're supposed to say, and we'll be right back.
And we'll be right back.
There you go. Be right back.
Thanks, guys.
Pop's Knife Supply was started 40 years ago and is owned by 4 professional knife makers. Andy Roy of Fiddleback Forge, Alan Searles of W.A. Searles Knives, Joey Berry of J.B. Knife Works, and Dirk Lutz of Dirk Lutz Knives make a great team of owners carrying on the traditions and business started by James Poplin. Over 4 decades in business is a testament to the best customer service with same-day shipping on weekdays. Pops only charges actual shipping, and any shipping differences are refunded on your orders. Everything you need to make knives, from grinding, steel, pin stock, heat treating, and more, can be found at Pops. Visit them at popsknife.supplies. And now, back to the show.
Kitchen knives. So I did my apprenticeship with Andy, and I was a competent knife maker. I did not appreciate that kitchen knives, you got to go all the way back to scratch. Like, I understood how to pull a good grind, but the geometry, the physics, the balance, I was really, really fortunate. And I had a couple of friends, especially Todd Mussman. He used to be with the Fifth Group in Atlanta, which is a really impressive restaurant group. I'm going to throw out the plug that he is now one of the owners of the Unsuke. It sounds like unsucky, but it's Unsuke restaurant group in Atlanta. But I was really fortunate to have him and a couple of his buddies. So I made what I thought was a kitchen knife. I guess I should back up a little bit. I love to cook. Beth and I, when we were single, we went out. That's part of how I met Todd and some of my other chefs. And then we had kids. And it turns out if we had the time, we didn't have the money to go out. So part of the whole stay-at-home gig was I literally opened up the cabinet, because up till this point, we were a nuclear family. Beth did all the cooking. And I pulled down The Joy of Cooking. And I started, not page 1, because there's an index and stuff. I started like page 32 and worked my way through The Joy of Cooking. And that's how I learned to cook. But I had these chefs that were friends. So when I painted myself in a corner, I could call them and go, hey, and they helped coach me through it. So fast forward, I get into knife making and I realize the kitchen industry is completely underserved. Steels that have been in the outdoor industry for 15 years, they still weren't using in the kitchen. I mean, we're talking 2000 and they're still using 440C. Like, not that 440C is a bad steel, but metallurgy technology has leaps and bounds beyond it. So I kind of got a passion in that I was going to bring modern knife making to the kitchen industry, because your option was a crappy $20 knife, a $100 knife based on technology that was 300 years out of date, or a $2,000 custom knife that nobody could afford. So I got passionate about kitchen knives, came out of Andy's shop, strong, bold. I'm a knife maker. I made what I thought was a kitchen knife, and I sent it to my buddy Mussman, and he passed it around the kitchen for a couple of weeks. I don't know if y'all know this about chefs, but they're honest. Not just like bless your heart honest. They're brutally honest.
We've watched Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah, and they're kind of mean. That thing came back to me with Sharpie all over it. Too much here, round this off. What were you thinking? This is bad. And it was really a 2.5 year process to completely relearn knife making. Like I have to have 2 mindsets right now of outdoor knives, which that's how I got my start in the industry. I will always make now outdoor knives. Those guys got me started. I'll always serve that industry.
Yeah.
But kitchen knives are my passion, but I had to form two mindsets. It really is like learning knife making all over again. And those long, high, thin grinds, that's a whole nother beast. But yeah, I saw a lack in the industry and happened to be there just at that pivotal moment where technology was catching up, but nobody had really caught on yet. And right now, kitchen knives are about 80% of my business.
So you found your market early on. That's wonderful too. Especially
and
you identified where it was needed.
the other part was the steels that can be smithed, can be forge worked.
Mm-hmm.
There were guys with 30 years experience that were master smiths, and I'm some new kid on the block. I said, I can spend 15, 30 years trading elbows with these guys that've got a 30-year head start on me.
Mm-hmm.
Or I can start working with these steels that it's not practical to forge. Rather than trading elbows with a master smith while I'm just some young kid, I'm going to move into an area where they're not working. And that also happened to be hand in hand with the kitchen, where they're looking for corrosion resistance, extreme edge retention, a great deal of flex, the things that you don't see in the traditional Bowie, the heavy brute to forge kind of forge knives.
Right.
So it was an undeveloped market, and it was materials that I didn't have to fight for space to use.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, guys, I get pretty passionate.
No. I love that passion because I will tell you, we've had a bunch of wonderful guests on this show, and Kyle, Dustin, Jason Fry, James.
Fry.
Yeah. I mean, and this right here, without insulting anybody else, and you've actually caught me off guard, Dan, because this has probably been one of my top knives, Templars Makers Marks segments, because I mean, heck, you've taken up damn hour of the show, man. And I still got another hour listening to it in me. And I mean that sincerely, because that when we take you out of the knife perspective environment, and we just get to hear who Dan is, that's such a wonderful, beautiful story. And not only with your family and having the opportunity and how you capitalized on it, identified your market, have grown, realized your limitations with your tools and what you still can and can't do based on that. I mean, that's things that the average guy doesn't hear, because I'm guilty of it too. Every guy that can sit and make 5 knives a month go, I could do this for a living. And I would say whether you're a guy that makes knives or makes widgets, when you start depending on that paycheck, that's a whole different set of variables to consider. And I think you could sit and just teach a class on that, Dan. That's how inspired I am by this conversation we've had tonight.
My recommendation is, man, if you can make some pocket money, 5 knives a month, and enjoy it, do that, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you enjoy it, man. Don't ruin your passion by having to make rent.
I'm very fortunate with an excellent career, and that's been good to me. God has been good to my family. And with that being said, I'm going to take knives into my retirement, and it may be 5 or 10 knives a month, because I got, 8 or 9 years left to work. And that's going to be something to keep me busy, keep my brain going, and have fun with that. And if I make spending money with it, that's great. But kudos to people like you, people like Kyle, people like,
Kyle especially.
Malmasi, the guys over at
Kyle walked
Top.
away from a really good engineering gig. I mean, he was making breadwinner money as an engineer,
right?
And walked away from that to be a knife maker.
Followed his passion.
He did.
I tried to talk him out of it. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, I remember you trying.
But
yeah.
And
he takes care of his kids.
I'm not saying that there's the guys out there making knives a month. Just realize, if you're going to do it, you've got to find a maker who's a professional, that's got the time. That's. I love the story where you said you had to earn your right with Jason Fry, and that you're going to have to prove yourself, because nobody wants to waste your time on somebody that likes I'm a knife maker. No, somebody that's truly a knife maker down in their soul, that this is their career, following their passion, that once you gain that trust, you've got to go down that road. Seems so much more valuable than just I'm going to be a knife maker and get an LLC and start selling knives. There's room for both of those, but you're at a whole different level.
And thank you. The only way you can do this is if you're passionate about it. If you get into it to make money, I'll be shocked if it works.
Yeah. Yep.
You have got to love knife making for it to be worthwhile. Very few people make a good living. There's plenty of us that do okay. Very few people make big money at knife making. If you're going to be a knife maker, you got to love it. That's just the way it is.
That's number one.
And if you're going to go into somebody's shop, the best way to learn to be a knife maker is from a knife maker. But if you're going to go into somebody's shop, I used to compete at a pretty high level in judo. And I read this article by another coach, and I didn't really get it at the time, but he talked about nothing breaks a coach's heart more than when somebody says, I want to be a champion. Because you have to give them that opportunity. You have to invest your time and your passion into helping them be a champion, even though you know deep down in your soul, there's a 90% chance that they're going to get halfway down the path and quit. That you're going to have to put that passion, you're going to have to put that drive, that time, that caring into this person, knowing that they're probably going to let you down. So when you go into a maker's shop and say, I want to be a knife maker, be aware of what you're asking of that person. Be aware of what you're committing to. I've got some guys that I help out that, God love them, they were honest. They said, I don't want to be a knife maker. I want to be a guy that makes knives. I want to make knives every now and then. Mm-hmm. And if that's you, that's great. Be honest about it. They come in and out of the shop and we work. But if you walk into a man's shop and say, I want to be a knife maker, just be aware of what you're really asking of that person and be prepared to commit.
Yeah, right. It reminds me of the first Rocky movie, not Rocky 67. This is Rocky 1, where he's trying to convince Burgess Meredith to train him, be his coach. So that there's a lot to be said for that, guys. Well, we already voted you in as a guest host, and with that is an open invitation. Anytime that we need a fill-in and you're available, we would love to have you in here as a expert witness and a funny guy and all the other things you bring to the table. So hopefully you will be available for that. Number two is, like I said, I do want to stress that as the Knives Templars Nation that we are building, that we are a partnership and a conglomerate of friends and people that add value to the things that we love to do, which is be a knife maker or make knives. And with that being said, something you said early on as well, we've all alluded to, is that it supports the industry and keeps the growth there so that we can continue to obtain the materials and the knowledge and the things that we need to enjoy what we do, whether it's full-time as a business or so on. Now, the most important part. If Otis Sear's not on here, so Mark, you'll have to fill in for this tonight. Be sure and write all this down. Now we are taking the vote to see if you're an honorary Knives Templar, which means that if you were voted in, and I will be voting for Otis Sear, and Don, you can play the role of Eric Rivers tonight when we do that. Okay, hold off.
I feel like I should mention, I have available a stock of microfracture-free steel that I could distribute.
Okay, that we'll take that in consideration, but
it is. I know it to be steel.
Is this a known steel?
Is it hard?
Does it cast? Does it cast sparks? Lots of sparks.
Oh, the most beautiful sparks! They're beautiful sparks.
Beautiful.
They're golden and they're white. They're truly beautiful sparks.
Okay. I've already penciled in the name of this episode is going to be
beautiful
microfractures and
Micro fractures and mutt
Big,
carbon
beautiful
steel
sparks.
will be the name of this episode. So if we do invite you in as an honorary Templar, that brings you all the rights and privileges of being a Templar without any voting. You will have no budget to spend. You'll have to pay for your own T-shirt, but Mark will send you on a piece of paper he'll just use your pencil mark. He'll fill it out an honorary certificate of entry and suitable for sticking onto your corkboard in the shop. Be sure and put it at the top of the corkboard, not underneath anything else. And finally, with that, if you so wish, I'll send you a little Sasquatch poo. Since I know you'd like for him to exist, I'll send you a bite of Sasquatch poo to try, so that you'll know the taste of urinal
I feel
cake.
like my life is empty because I have not yet experienced Sasquatch poo between my cheek and gum.
There you go. There you go. So I'm going to vote for Otisir, and Otisir would go like this. He'd go, "Yeah, man."
Yeah, he would. That
was pretty good. Yeah, man.
Oh yeah,
that was pretty good.
Yeah.
And I say, without a doubt, I have. I use the word blessed often in my life because it's a word I like to use, and a word that I decided many years ago in my growth spiritually that number one is to recognize your blessings, show other people how they are blessed, and encourage them to go do the same with other people. And tonight I've been truly blessed to get to know you, Dan. You've exceeded my expectations, and not that they were low. Just as a human, you've really exceeded that. So I'm a definite yes. Joey, where are you tonight? He says because you like crawdads.
Absolutely.
You're part Cajun. You're part of the family. Don, you want to do Eric?
Yeah, I think he's really. Yeah, he'd be good. Yeah.
Let's give him. You're supposed to say. Yeah. You're supposed to say heart. You know, Eric doesn't put a like on anything on Facebook. He puts hearts all over everything. So you get. Eric would give you 3 hearts and a twist and a snap, something like that. So VMAX, what do you say?
I'd say yes with a plum.
All right, get out your notebook, paper, and your crayons. You're in, baby.
I could hear the
That's right.
You're in, buddy.
Thank y'all very much. I'm flattered.
Thank you for coming on.
That was amazing.
Dan, thank you for being on. We're going to take a quick break, and after that, we're going to come back to some questions and other things before we hit that 2-hour mark. We'll be right back.
Majestic Forge is owned and operated by Brian and Kayla Horn in Rushville, Ohio. With many years of experience manufacturing 2 to 5 burner gas forges, Majestic Forge is your #1 source for blacksmith forges, farrier forges, and specialty forges. They are dedicated to creating top-of-the-line forges at a price you can afford. Majestic Forge has supplied forges to blacksmith schools, high schools, colleges, production shops, and TV shows such as Mythbusters. And Majestic Forge is the forge of choice for televisions forged in fire. Knife makers are in luck as they offer forges that come with 2 or 3 deluxe burners. Here at Knives Templars, we are sure that you can find a USA-made Majestic Forge to suit your needs. Check out your next forge at majesticforge.com.
All right. Well, we're back. We are back. And guys, we've got a few minutes for some questions. We've had a long show tonight, but I tell you what, this has been quite exciting of an episode. And I will tell you, these questions I came up with this particular one, weren't necessarily mailed in because I want answers to some of the things that I'm doing. So we got a topic tonight we're going to kick off, and it's called grinding those false edges. And of course, you guys know a blade grind resembling a false edge runs at the top, and it's usually at a different angle than what you're grinding out on the bottom. And my comment to you, or my question to you, is what do you think about the geometry the angles for that false edge on top, the where you should start one, and getting them to line up with the point of the knife. Just you guys are good at putting those types of dimensions on a knife. Well, how would you say that you've done it and you find the best way to do it? Got some guys out there probably haven't done it before.
Go ahead, Joey.
Oh, okay.
Go, Joey. Go.
Well, I just finished up 2 knives with false edges. And, of course, the false edge that was on those 2 blades, it was curved. There was a little slight curve to it. And so...
more like a clip point.
Yeah.
Or trailing edge. Yeah.
Trailing
point.
Trailing edge, yep. And just a slight one. And if you're gonna grind that, of course I freehand grind, but if you're gonna grind that with a jig, it's gonna be a little more complicated than it would be freehanded. Because
of the curve?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but you having an Ameribrake grinder and a 10-inch contact wheel, well, you can just set that work table at about 59 degrees, somewhere around there, and use that contact wheel to grind in that swedge that you want to grind in. Just scribe your lines down the middle and the top of the spine.
Right.
But this last knife you did, you broke into the spine. Where
that is correct.
Yeah, where my swedge was actually raised and then dropped back into the spine.
And that was a really nice place to put it. And that's one of the reasons why I came up when talking about the topic, where I plunged into the blade where it started, the drop point started, where the drop started, maybe a little bit behind where it started. Yours, I noticed, stopped up where it swoops up, kind of where a thumb would rest in there.
Yeah, where that transition is, where it came up and then dropped back down onto the spine. I terminated it past that point where those 2 transitions met each other.
Yeah. So for our folks that haven't ever done that's called a swedge, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I've heard swedge or false edge.
Yeah.
Okay. So people that haven't done, and we'll say false edge because that works better off my tongue. People that haven't done a false edge, you're still drawing scribing the top of the blade so that you're leaving enough width on it.
I'm scribing my 2 lines, on the top where I want to leave, and I normally do 20 thousandths. And then if I want to try to go to almost a 0, I'll just continue to work from those 2 scribe lines, but I always go 220 and leave 20 thousandths. And then I'll heat treat, and then that'll be left, and then I'll go even further if I want to bring it even more towards 0.
One thing I read before I did that, and I'm a person that likes to read a lot and watch videos and things, and I actually got brave that this is a knife I'm making for my brother-in-law, and if it went to him or wonky or whatever, then he had a collector's piece, a wonky blade. But it turned out really well. I mean, I was really surprised with how equal the dimensions, and the plunge is almost perfect. I can't see any difference. But I put it on my jig because I wasn't comfortable enough freehanding it on this. And I'll freehand my main bevels with no problem these days. But I did put it on my jig for that. And I put it at 50 whatever degrees, and I think it just depends on the maker. Whatever you would recommend. You said 50 something.
I said 59. Yeah,
then that's what I set mine to. I scribed the top line, and I divided that from the total. I subtracted the width of my final bevel from the total width of the steel, and hit that line just fine. But one thing I thought was really cool that I read, and it was fine. It said, don't worry about the tip until you're just about done, because if you keep going down and you keep hitting the tip, you stand a better chance of thinning that tip out too much or burning the tip because it'll get thin. Worry about going back and move slowly, and then at the end go back in and feather in your tip and get it right. And I did that, and I was tickled to death with myself with the way that turned out. But I used a jig on that, and you're saying, now when you're saying use the 12-inch wheel,
Are you talking about tilt the table up so you're hitting the wheel at the 59 degrees
You'll
and then sliding it across the table?
Yeah, you'll tilt your table, your work rest at 59 degrees. Your wheel will be right here, and you can just, even though your belt will be running in one direction, you don't want to drag it where it's going. You want to drag it and come across where the belt's coming and hitting it like this, and so you'll reverse and go the other way, or you can just reverse your with your VFD.
You're talking horizontal, right, Joey?
Yeah, going horizontal. Yep.
Yeah.
Do y'all mind if I back up a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
Design principles that I learned always started with, what do you want this to do? So you start with the effect you want, and then you build from there. You either add to or take away from, depending. And a swedge can do a couple of different things, so you can get a couple of different angles. So like the old Japanese tantos, the swedge was a way to remove steel, kind of like a fuller, but the blade stayed rigid. You got not a true diamond, because the swedge would come down about 25% the height of the blade, but it lets you remove a significant amount of steel, but your cross section being kind of diamond shaped, the blade was still rigid.
Yep.
But you pulled away a lot of steel, kind of like putting a fuller in.
Gotcha.
And it's a false edge, but it's fairly thick and it's really low.
So the functional side of it is weight reduction.
Yeah, I'll post a picture.
Or I'll be honest with you, I did mine for appearance and because, hey, I wanted to try this, but I understand.
And appearance is a reason. Some people will do it they want a finer tip, but they don't want a true double-sided edge kind of situation. And that'll be a higher grind, but it'll come, the grind won't go as far down the blade, but it'll be tighter at the edge.
Yeah.
And then when you start doing clip points versus drop points, it changes your geometry a little bit and how far you take it back. Once you pass the apex of the curve where your tip comes up into the spine, once you get a little bit past where the spine levels out, mechanically you're not gaining much if you're using it as a thrusting tool. But if you bring that false edge further back, you're removing weight, but it's a safe edge. You could put your thumb up on that. So like the 50-degree grind can serve a purpose as a true false edge, but if you want to go deeper with that and go with more of a traditional Japanese profile, that's still a swedge that serves a purpose.
Right.
Yeah, it's just a little shallower.
Yeah, and it's what do you want? What is the reason that you're putting this swedge on?
Yeah. These were just hunters, and I just wanted the aesthetic look. So that's why I weigh, the way I ground them. That's why I ground them. I wanted them to look that way.
Yeah. Can I tell you
how long every hunting knife you had the little clip point in the swedge? I mean, that's a hunting knife.
Yep.
Can I tell you why I really finally crossed the road and made that step to something I'd never done before? Mark, you did a knife that had one in it, and I thought that looked so cool. And I'm like, if that idiot can do one, I can too. And I say that jokingly. But I was inspired by that knife you did, and I was like, I may mess this up, and it may be wonky, but here we go. And I was so proud that I had done it. But Mark, you were my inspiration for doing that. So.
I appreciate it. And I'll tell you, I was impressed with that first one that you posted, because that line where your primary bevels and your false edge met up. I mean, that was perfectly straight on both sides. I mean, it looked machined, so it was a great job.
Yeah,
and it's
thank you for that.
When you start adding bevels, I mean, doing anything once is easy. Doing the first bevel is easy.
That's right.
Yeah.
Matching it with the second bevel, that's when it gets hard.
Yes. Yeah.
When you then get a third and fourth bevel, and all of those have to be symmetrical and proportional, that's when you start getting to next level difficulty. Like you can't fudge that. You either hit it or you didn't.
Yeah, Otis here has not inspired me to go full on dagger yet.
I've done two.
Yeah.
15 years of knife making. I've done 2 daggers.
Yeah.
And then you could say you have, and that's
I think
all.
I'm gonna try my hand at it. I've been wanting to do it. So
have you not made one, Joey? I thought you made one.
No, I didn't make one. No.
Well, now you're a skilled guy. I know you'll do it.
I did one to say that I did it, and then I have enough heritage to pull it off, so I made a skin do to wear with my formal kilt.
So, man who wears dresses. That are you Scottish?
So yeah, I legitimately can claim Clan Campbell, or sorry, not Campbell, Clellan. There's some Campbell, and then I've got some Scots and Irish as well. But
have you gone up to the Highland Games?
I have.
Cool. I have a friend that he lives in that area, and he's helps to put it on. He has for the last several years, helps to organize it in the committees and all that. That's something else. He's got his own tent, and he's all proud of himself and everything. That's good to have that heritage.
Yeah, I finally got all the documentation to now make my claim to the St. James Society.
Oh wow! I don't have what it takes to wear a kilt comfortably. So I'm too fat; it would push it down, and when it pushed it down, I'd just be embarrassed. Wouldn't stand there proud.
So first of all, I learned the rule for a kilt is if it's above the knee, you have no shame. If it's at the knee, it's proper, and if it's below the knee, you're bragging.
Well, I could wear a mini kilt. So
I actually started wearing one. I'm sorry.
No,
I
go
started
ahead.
wearing one because my shop is not climate controlled.
Yeah.
So August, with the kiln running at 2,000 degrees and me grinding steel.
Yeah.
It turned out that I started off with a canvas kilt because a nice cross draft was really key in those situations. And then it went from a canvas working kilt to, if you're going to do it, you might as well do it properly. So I got the whole 9 yards.
Well, guys, let me throw a couple things in here before we, because this has been a great episode.
I'm sorry.
No. There is no sorry whatsoever. This has been one of my favorite episodes. We want to do a couple things here. We want to make sure that, guys, Pops Maker's Mark, be sure and go out and purchase from Pops. They provide some of the best products out there, and Dan is a testament to it's just damn good people running that business. Also, be sure if you're using Phoenix abrasives, go out there and get their belts, guys. And if you go there and you put in Templars 10 when you make your purchase, you're going to save 10%. Also, Templars 100 at Ameribraid. Save $100 off a machine now through April 30th. Go out and buy you one of they've got 3 levels of machines to go out there. Pick yourself out one. Be sure and put in Templars 100 for $100 off between now and April 30th. And I've got my good buddy Mr. Jeff Byford over Byford's Guns here in Hartselle, Alabama, and I don't ever want to miss an opportunity to say, if you're in the Hartselle, Alabama area, stop over at Byford's Guns and see what they have to offer. They got a full selection of guns, ammunition, hunting supplies, and just about anything you'd want if you are a firearms purchaser and user. So go check them out. With that being said, the last one I want to bring up, Mark, how's those maritime knife supply.ca supplies working for you?
They're going pretty good. Like I said, I think the big one this week was working those sanding stones, but I'm about to, I'm probably just going to cut out and start working on my next blade. I think I'm going to do a hidden tang now that I have this great stabilized wood I got from the Don Watson. And so I think I'm going to want to make a hidden tang out of one of these here. So that would be a great opportunity to test some of those counterslick bits I got. And I don't know, I got a whole bunch of stuff I'm going to try out. Too many ideas and not enough time.
That's okay. And we can, guys, if you're up north of the border in Canada or here in the United States, you can also go to maritimeknifesupply.ca and purchase some knife supplies there. I think I got everybody in tonight if we don't run the full ads, but that's just fine as well.
I'd like to plus one on Phoenix.
Heck yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
So Kyle approached me about having Phoenix as a sponsor, and it's important to me that I won't back anybody that's not legitimate. Like I'm not going to take your money unless I believe in you. And I had been Norton Ceramics for years. And I love Phoenix. They track better than Norton. They cut as well. In some cases better. I use a lot of the purple. I use some of their incinerators for the Magna Cut.
Yep.
I have fully drank the Phoenix Kool-Aid.
Good people.
Yeah.
They started doing shop rolls for me for my hand sanding grits. So rather than cutting up sheets of sandpaper,
right,
I can get shop rolls from them. So it's 15 feet of sandpaper that's 1.5 inch in a roll.
I will tell you, I saw a picture of you somewhere sanding, and you had a piece of shop roll around your sanding stick, and I was like, I'm going to start doing that quick cut and tape. That wasn't in the last few weeks. I saw a picture of you doing that somewhere.
In the time alone of cutting up the sandpaper, it was cost effective, but it's cost effective even without that time.
Yeah, I wish Indasa did shop rolls. That would be awesome.
Well, while we're wishing, let's just let everybody know one quick thing as we get ready to sign off here. We'll have a little after show for people that want to hang on after, but I want everybody to know that, Dan, I'm sorry, but the Knives Templar podcast is the greatest podcast out there, surrounded by a bunch of other great podcasts. And we're so glad you came. Our episodes are sponsored by the Rivers Experience, Last Blade Standing, knifewood.com. Don't forget about Oleg, knife-wood.com, Ameribraid, and that Templars 100 for savings, Majestic Forge, Byford's Guns, Pop's Knife Supplies, Maritime Knife Supply, Phoenix Abrasives, and don't forget the Templars 10 again for your 10% off at checkout. We've also got to let you know you can hear us on all of your podcast providers out there. Specifically, we want you to go to iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Anchor, Amazon, and CastBox. You need some good resources? Head out to the Rivers Experience on Facebook. You can also go to the Knives Templars podcast on Facebook and check us out at knivestemplars.com and check out, see what the website has to offer. If you want to sign up for a partner, just send me your information and a logo, and I will put you up as a partner maker. And if you want to contact us at knivestemplars@yahoo.com. Whew, got all that out in one breath.
That's impressive.
Let's tell everybody good night.
Good night, guys. Have a great week.
Good night.
Good night, Dan.
Hey, everybody. This is Jason Fry. I just got back from Blade Show, Texas, and I have a cold, so I sound like I'm in a hole. But I thought I'd talk to you guys a little bit about kind of what I think about knife shows, because it's a little non-traditional. Everybody says that if you want to be a serious knife maker, you've got to do knife shows. And for a long time, I kind of fought that. I didn't really want to do it. I have a bunch of kids. It's hard to be out of town. It seems expensive, especially for the majors. And I think overall that hurt me a little bit, because a knife show is a complicated process. So let me tell you a story about my very first knife show. Back in 2009, I started making knives, and in 2011, I was invited to a knife show in a little town called Big Spring, Texas, in a barbecue restaurant. Okay, so not a major by any stretch, but it was my first one. So I made 11 knives, and I went there, and I was going to be rich. That was the most knives I've ever made at once, and I'm going to sell them all, and it's going to be awesome, and I'm going to have all this money, and it's going to be great, right? And so I sat there the whole day and sold one knife, and it was the cheapest one on my table, and I was really sad. But I had the, insight to ask the guys next to me what the deal was, because they'd been doing knife shows a long time. The guy next to me, Bill Middlebrook, had been doing shows for literally 40 years. Also, they had Jerry McClure there, a very talented and qualified, capable knife maker. So I asked those guys, hey, why do I still have so many knives on my table? And at that point, I got a really good lesson. So Jerry in particular gave me some things about line and flow and design and handle length and handle shape, and a little bit about fit and finish. But that was the first time I had ever had an honest critique of my work from somebody that didn't just tell me they were awesome, right? And those guys are not very helpful. So, lesson number one about knife shows is get them where you can get them, right? So, I had a knife show that changed my trajectory in a barbecue place, and there was like 10 of us there, right? So, first, get them where you can get them. Another story about knife shows. Harvey Dean, who former president of ABS, he's a master smith, one of the better knife makers in the world, tells a story about going to this gun show in Waco, Texas, which is not a metropolis, but just a regular gun show, right? And did not sell anything, but he met a guy. And over the course of the next 10 or 15 years, that guy ended up buying $20,000 worth of knives from Harvey off of that initial contact at a do-nothing gun show in an unremarkable place. So I think I'll stop with that for this time. I will have some more knife show advice on the next round, like what do you do in terms of bringing knives, selection, marketing, pricing. I'll talk about a few of those things. I'm also strongly of the opinion that if you go to a knife show just to sell knives, you're kind of missing some of the important stuff. So I'll elaborate on that for another episode.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
All right. And we'll call this the post show because I know there's another show out there that has the after show, and they're such a wonderful podcast. I don't want to impede on that, but we've still got some more to talk about. I don't think we've had an after show or post show in a while. So,
hey Dan, I got a question.
I apologize if I got a little carried away.
Heck no.
It's nice to be able to step out of the knife perspective box. I mean, that's Dan. That's a facet of me, but
yeah,
it's nice to be able to. I geek out about knives. So I apologize if I got carried away.
Dan, I will tell you that when you're got a table at Blade Show this year,
we've got a booth this year.
I'll probably run up and hug you. You know, you
Please
might punch
do.
me. And I say that I hope I've gained a friend because you're just inspired me. You're a good man.
Thank you very much. Just fair warning. Saturdays, I'm usually wearing a kilt, so there's a chance you may be hugging a man in a skirt.
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. I think that's actually acceptable these days. To hug men in skirts.
Dan, I got a question
as I told
for you, Dan.
Before you ask that question, Don, I'm going to stop you right
Go
there
ahead.
because I want you all to know that speaking of hugging men in skirts, as you saw me post this week with my little meme, I identify as a knife maker and my pronouns are I, ain't. No. It was I will cut. Is that what it was?
It will cut.
It will cut, yeah. So since nobody wanted to order that shirt, you send me your sizes and I'll be ordering a shirt for our Knives Templars. And Dan, if you want one as well, send me your size and I'll order you one also.
Absolutely, I'd be flattered.
Yeah, just send me your size on DM or that's the best way to do it, or just send me an instant
I'm
message.
literally doing it right now.
All right, and I'll pick you guys out a shirt, and it'll say Knives Templars on it, but it'll say it will cut. Anyway, Don, I've interrupted you terribly.
Yeah,
but you're getting a shirt out of me because remember last time you said something about a shirt, and I said no, Don, and now I'm buying you one. So now go ahead.
Brother.
I beg your
you.
forgiveness.
Now, I just want to ask Dan. I know I heard him before. What kind of steel he uses? I just couldn't remember. I was just wondering what steel that you use for your knives.
I know what he's going to say.
I like to say I'll use anything somebody will pay for.
Yep.
But if somebody lets me have free reign, CPM 154, S35VN, or MagnaCut. MagnaCut's a bear to work with, but I really believe in its performance. My experience has been any blade over about 5 inches really gets challenging on MagnaCut, but I find it's worth it.
Okay. I know you said one steel. You said one steel was real pain to grind.
MagnaCut.
Was that MagnaCut? Yeah. You was talking one time. I listened to your podcast, and you go, "Oh man, I just hate this grinding this steel, man."
Yeah. So since I do a lot of thin blades, frequently I have to harden before I do any of the grinding.
Yeah.
and MagnaCut annealed, it's like AEBL. It's butter.
Mm-hmm.
But once it's hardened, I did some 1/16 inch. It was a 2.5, 3-inch blade utility knife in MagnaCut, 1/16 at the spine. And I had to use 36 grit ceramic belts to set the bevels. I was grinding
on
a 1/16 inch
stock
blade, and I was using 36 grit ceramic belts to set the bevels.
Man. Oh, wow.
And was wearing the belts out.
Wow.
I think it was 7 knives, and I went through 3 36 grit belts. It was either 5 or 8 60 grit belts and a handful of 80 grit belts. Once that stuff is hardened, it is no joke.
Yes, it doesn't move.
No.
Now, it's bad about warping. Yeah. So coming off a plate quench, it's straight and true and beautiful. But when you go into cryo, when you come out of cryo, anything over 5 inches warps pretty badly.
Man.
Which is when Kyle's straight
little hammer
come
the
in.
hammer comes
Oh yeah,
in.
carbide
yeah,
tip
it works
ball
good
peen.
too, buddy.
Yep.
Yeah, I still got to get one of those.
Counterintuitive about striking on the inside of the apex versus the outside, but it works.
Yeah.
Wait, say that again, Dan.
All right, so if you've got a curved blade,
yep.
With those straightening hammers, you don't hit on the outside of the apex.
Right.
You strike on the inside.
That's right.
And that divot causes that surface to expand,
move,
which straightens it out.
It does work. It works great too, man.
Yep.
Yeah. But I mean, that's my Ferrari steel. Vast majority of what I do is S35VN because myself included, very few people use a blade hard enough to meet the needs of S35VN, much less MagnaCut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, do I have a MagnaCut blade? Of course, because if you can go to 11, I'm Dan Eastland.
Yep.
I'm going to go to
right.
11, 11.5.
That's right.
But it so outperforms what I use it for.
Yeah.
For an average Joe, average housewife or person, that CPM 154 is what you use for the average person.
I've kind of, there's an efficiency in being able to buy a certain volume of just one material. Average kitchen knife user, AEBL is phenomenal.
Okay.
A lot of people don't know the grain structure of ABL is finer than CPM 154. It'll take a keener edge than 154. It just won't hold it as long.
Right.
AEBL vastly outperforms what's on the market for kitchen knives.
How would you I'm sorry, go ahead.
CPM 154 is great. S35VN has kind of just become my go-to. It helps. I mean, you guys know, you start tweaking your heat treat, you dial it in. It helps to have just one steel that you really got. And for the kitchen, S35VN will do everything from a cleaver to a fillet knife. So it's kind of my go-to in the kitchen, unless somebody wants to go to the ludicrous speed, in which case I give them the MagnaCut.
Let me ask, what type of heat oven are you using with the volume?
I'm using an even heat with a solid state controller.
Yeah.
How many knives can you get in there at one time?
So I can do kitchen, like an 8-inch chef's knife, I can do 7 in there. Mm-hmm. The limiting factor on that actually has become my plates. Mm-hmm. If you're tempering at 1950, 2000 degrees, your plates will overheat, especially on an 8-inch blade.
Yep.
Really quickly.
Yeah.
I'm actually working with Joe Snarsky to do some water cooled quenching plates.
I saw it on your Instagram.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about that.
My plates would overheat before I got through 7 kitchen knives. And then I've got knives in the kiln that are overheating. I'm trying to cool my plates down. I used to keep 1-inch aluminum plates in the freezer that I would clamp between quenches to try and pull the heat out. Mm-hmm. And it was less about the oven and more about my capacity.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
How would you compare ABL to Nitro V?
I don't have a lot of experience with Nitro V, so I couldn't give you a fair comparison. I know some guys that have gotten really good results from it.
You've never worked with it.
I've been comfortable with ABL, so I haven't needed to use it.
Yeah, I just got a bunch of ABL and Nitro V, so I guess I'm fixing to find out.
Have you got an oven, Joey?
No, I'm getting one though.
Oh, get it, baby.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, yeah.
I followed old Mister. Never slap a man in the mouth while chewing tobacco.
Yeah. Good for you. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Bo.
Yep, thank you.
22.5 inch.
Yes, I got what you got, buddy.
Oh,
I got the exact
solid.
same
You hear Dan say solid state controls, right?
Yep.
He don't have to hear that click, 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 click.
220.
Yep. 220 volt solid state drive. Got the AP12C controller, I think. I went with that.
Did you get the built-in basal thermometer attachment?
No, I got the was that blade fixture and what else?
Basal thermometer is a rectal thermometer. It sounds like you had everything else. I figured you got that as well.
Brought to you by Porkhouse Productions. Oinky, oinky, oinky.